Imagine this. You are a being woven not of flesh alone but of energy, constantly pulsing, radiating and receiving. Each breath you take is an interaction with a living universe. Each thought you think, every emotion you nurture, every word you speak, these are not just private inner tremors. They ripple outward, shaping your reality, sculpting the unseen world around you. But what happens when those words, those thoughts, are drenched in complaint? What happens when the stories we tell ourselves are laced with frustration, judgment, and resentment? This isn't just semantics. It's not harmless venting. Complaining, though we often indulge in it without a second thought, is one of the most underestimated, misunderstood forces draining the human spirit. Let's begin at the root. What is complaining really? It's more than just pointing out that something went wrong or didn't go our way. At its core, complaining is an expression of resistance. It's a mental and emotional rebellion against the moment. We are, in essence, saying, "This shouldn't be. I reject this." It's the mind's attempt to control the uncontrollable, to rewrite reality mid-sentence. But here's the paradox. The more we resist the present, the more power it has over us. And with every complaint, we are telling the universe, "This is my frequency. This is what I dwell in." And the universe, always listening, always reflecting, says, "Very well, here is more of that." You see, energy doesn't lie. And your words are not just sounds, they're signals. Each complaint is like casting a stone into the calm waters of your energy field, sending out ripples that disrupt your emotional harmony, mental clarity, and even your physical well-being. But we often don't notice it, because it happens slowly. One casual complaint, then another, then 10. And soon, without realizing it, we've tuned ourselves to a frequency of lack. We've become walking antennas for dissatisfaction. The science backs it up. Dr. Rick Hanson, a neuropsychologist and author, explains the human brain has what's called a negativity bias. It's a survival instinct. Our minds cling to negative stimuli more than positive ones to keep us safe. But in modern life, this ancient wiring becomes a curse. Complaining amplifies the bias. It tells the brain, "This is important. Store this, repeat this." And so the cycle begins. Neural pathways are carved. Chemical reactions follow. The amygdala, the emotional control center of the brain, lights up with stress signals. Cortisol floods the system. Your heartbeat quickens, your muscles tense, your digestion slows, your immune system weakens, your clarity fades. You become your complaint. Your biology cannot separate emotional stress from physical threat. To your body, chronic complaining is a daily emergency, and what starts as a mental habit becomes a full-body curse. You feel drained, unmotivated, pessimistic. You attract more chaos, and even your relationships begin to fray, because the energy you emit colors the world around you. But why? Because energy is contagious. In the unseen realm of vibration and frequency, we are always transmitting, always influencing the space around us. And when we complain, we aren't just lowering our own vibration, we're lowering the entire field we're part of. Homes, workplaces, relationships, friendships, all begin to reflect the frequency we carry. Now imagine that multiplied, every complaint echoed, amplified, shared. A single voice of frustration becomes a chorus of discontent. That's how collective negativity is born, not through grand events, but through small, persistent emissions of energy we barely register. And yet, despite all of this, we still cling to our complaints. Why? Because they feel justified. They make us feel seen, heard, right, victimized. But here's the deeper truth. Every time we complain, we give away our power. We become reactive instead of responsive, victims instead of creators. And in doing so, we become misaligned with the natural flow of life. The ancient philosopher Heraclitus once said, "The only constant is change. Life is not static. It is movement, ceaseless, evolving, transforming. And to resist it is to suffer. But complaining is the voice of resistance. It is the sound of fighting the river rather than flowing with it." And so, it's time to ask ourselves a difficult, honest question. What are we truly creating when we complain? Because whether we realize it or not, we are always creating, with every word, every thought, every feeling. We are sculptors of reality, and reality always responds. It begins as something almost imperceptible, a tension behind the eyes, a subtle clench in the jaw, the barely audible sigh of dissatisfaction. But the moment a complaint is born, something shifts. The air feels heavier. The space around you begins to contract, and within the silent architecture of your body, your energy, your life force starts to change direction. Most people never feel it happen, but if you could see your energy field the way an intuitive healer or clairvoyant might, as a dynamic flow of colors, vibrations and currents, you would witness a dramatic scene unfold every time you complain. What was once fluid becomes stagnant. What once shimmered becomes clouded. The harmonious rhythms that pulse through a healthy energy field begin to twist and harden, like a river dammed by resistance. You might not believe in auras or chakras, but even through the lens of science, the pattern remains. Every emotion has a frequency. Every thought has a measurable energetic imprint. And when we express thoughts rooted in resistance, like blame, resentment, judgment, or victimhood, we anchor ourselves to a low-frequency loop, a loop that drains us. And when those loops become habitual, they reprogram not just our energy field, but our biology. Complaining triggers the stress response in the brain. The amygdala signals, "a threat," and the body responds by releasing cortisol, the body's emergency hormone. In the short term, it's helpful. It sharpens our senses, heightens awareness. But the body was never designed to swim in cortisol daily. Chronic complaining means chronic stress, and chronic stress means chronic inflammation, the silent precursor to nearly every major illness. We fear heart disease, autoimmune disorders, digestive problems, anxiety, depression. It tightens the muscles, reduces oxygen flow, destabilizes blood sugar, weakens the immune system. But even more than that, it starts to feel normal. And that's the real danger. We acclimate to suffering. We forget what a high vibration feels like. We forget what lightness feels like. We start living in energetic poverty, where every thought is weighed down by judgment, where hope feels naive and gratitude sounds like fiction. You might even hear people say, "I'm just being realistic." But realism is often just a masked addiction to limitation. Now let's look deeper into the metaphysical mechanics. In the teachings of Hermetic philosophy, one axiom stands above all. All is mind. Reality, they say, is mental. Your thoughts are not echoes in an empty skull. They are blueprints being submitted to the cosmic architect. Every repeated complaint is like redrawing the same flawed design over and over. And the universe, acting as a mirror, responds with unfailing precision, as you wish. When you complain about being tired, more fatigue appears. When you focus on betrayal, more distrust blooms. When you declare, "Nothing ever works out for me," the world reflects that belief in people, outcomes, delays, and missed chances. This is not mysticism, it is resonance. The law of resonance tells us that energies of similar frequency are drawn to each other. And a complaint is nothing more than a frequency, one that says, "I am in lack, I am in resistance, I do not accept this." So what happens to your energy field when that is your dominant tone? Blockages, stagnation, disruption. In energy, medicine practitioners speak of the chakras, 7 centers in the body that regulate the flow of vital energy. Each one governs a specific realm of your life: security, creativity, willpower, love, truth, insight, and connection. But complaining acts like a toxin, especially targeting the solar plexus, where our sense of self and personal power resides, and the throat chakra, our center of expression. When we complain, these chakras tighten, constrict, and weaken. The energy that should flow upward toward clarity and connection instead spirals inward and collapses on itself. That's why habitual complainers often feel stuck, unheard, powerless. Their voice may be loud, but it carries no resonance. Their Presence may fill a room, but it does not uplift, because the energy has turned against itself, like a garden trying to grow in poisoned soil. And what's worse, that energy doesn't stay contained. It leaks. Your aura, the energetic field that surrounds your body, is both transmitter and receiver. It is the interface between your inner state and the world. And when it is clouded with low-frequency emissions, it begins to attract experiences that match. That's why you'll notice some people always seem to be in conflict, always surrounded by drama, always facing setback after setback. They're not unlucky. They're tuned into a frequency that sustains the pattern. And that frequency? It began with a complaint. Over time, even your environments start to hold that energy. Rooms remember emotions. Have you ever walked into a space and immediately felt uneasy, as if the air itself carried tension? That's not your imagination. Sound, thought, and emotion all leave imprints. Your home, your workspace, even your bed. They absorb what you release, they reflect it back. And if complaint is your daily vocabulary, those spaces become mirrors of your internal resistance, echo chambers that reinforce the very discomfort you want to escape. But here's the most heartbreaking truth of all. When we live in constant complaint, we forget our own light. We identify with our wounds. We lose touch with wonder. We abandon the truth that we are not here to control every moment. We are here to dance with life, to participate in the unfolding, not fight it. But until we reclaim our power from the habit of complaint, we will keep living as energetic prisoners, locked in a cell built from our own words. There's a timeless truth whispered across spiritual traditions, ancient philosophies, and even modern physics. The universe is a mirror. Not metaphorically, literally. What you emit through thought, speech, emotion is reflected back to you, over and over, until you become conscious of the signal you're sending. Now pause for a moment and imagine this. You wake up each day surrounded by a field of invisible light, your energetic blueprint. And this field, subtle and unseen, is constantly sending messages to the universe. I am at peace. I am frustrated. I am grateful. I am exhausted. I am not enough. These messages, felt more than spoken, are frequencies. And they don't just hang in the air, they shape what comes next. They alter what you notice, who you meet, and even the types of opportunities or challenges that appear. So when complaint becomes a way of life, it begins doing something strange, something dangerous. It summons more of the very conditions you don't want. Here's how. When you complain, you are directing your attention toward what you lack, dislike, or reject. And attention is a powerful form of energy. It acts like a magnifying glass. Whatever it focuses on expands. Think of your consciousness as a radio dial. When you tune it to the complaint frequency, every channel you pick up will match that energy. Disappointment, conflict, obstacles, people who irritate you. You're not imagining it, you're attracting it. This is how energetic alignment works. The more you complain about being misunderstood, the more you'll encounter miscommunication. The more you dwell on being let down, the more you'll find reasons to feel betrayed. And soon you begin to say, "See? Life is just hard. People can't be trusted. I knew it." But here's the truth that can either break you or set you free. You're not seeing reality. You're seeing a reflection of your vibration. And this is where it gets even deeper, because your thoughts don't only attract. They also open doors. In esoteric traditions, it is taught that complaining, anger, fear, and prolonged negativity create small tiers or portals in your energetic field. These are not science fiction fantasy. They are energetic weaknesses, vulnerable points in your aura. And through these gaps, lower frequency energies can enter. Call them what you will. Emotional parasites, shadow influences, energetic attachments. The name doesn't matter. The effect does. Because when you live in complaint, your field becomes permeable. You begin to attract more than just experiences. You attract entities, mindsets, and moods that feed off your discontent. Ever had a day where everything just kept going wrong? Not by chance, but as if something fed off your reaction. That's not coincidence. That's resonance. And it's why spiritual traditions, from Taoism to Buddhism to Kabbalah, emphasize non-resistance as a path to power. The Tao says, "The soft overcomes the hard, the yielding conquers the rigid." In other words, acceptance isn't weakness. It is strength through alignment. When we complain, we are pushing against reality. When we accept, we are merging with it, becoming fluid, adaptive, clear. Now let's talk about the physical side of this. Your chakras, the body's subtle energy centers, are not just symbolic. They are functional systems tied to emotion, health, and self-expression, and chronic complaining clogs these centers. It especially overloads the throat chakra, the center of communication. This makes it harder to speak truth without negativity, harder to be heard with clarity, and harder to connect authentically. It also distorts the solar plexus chakra, your center of personal power, confidence, and will. When this becomes dense, from constant criticism and self-victimization, you feel powerless, passive, unsure of your purpose. Your creative flow is blocked. Your inner fire dims. You begin to second-guess your instincts. You feel fatigued, even after rest. And you stop trusting the guidance that once came naturally. But the ripple doesn't end with you, because your energy field touches everything you move through: rooms, conversations, relationships, even inanimate objects. And over time, the energy of your complaint stains the environments around you. You've felt it before. A room that suddenly feels off after an argument. An office where everyone is always on edge. A home filled with tension that no one will talk about. These energies don't vanish, they linger, echo, imprint. And as those imprints build, they shape not just the mood of the space, but the manifesting potential of everyone within it. You may not be able to see it, but you're living in the vibrational residue of your own emotional history. And the most tragic part, most of this happens unconsciously. We don't mean to pollute our energy field. We don't set out to dull our own radiance. But we are so used to feeling heavy, we no longer notice the weight. We are so used to resistance, we've mistaken it for identity. So if we want to change, not just how we feel but what we attract, we must begin where the distortion begins, not in the world, not in our circumstances, but in our words, in our attention, in the choice we make every time we're tempted to say, "This is terrible. This shouldn't be happening. I hate this." Because each complaint is more than an observation. It is a declaration, a spell, and it's one we cast upon ourselves. But if that's true, if your words can distort your field, then imagine what they could do if aligned with gratitude. What if every time you were about to complain you paused and instead whispered a word of gratitude? What if the moment you felt frustration rising in your chest, you chose breath over blame? What if you remembered, in that very moment, that your next word could change your life? This is not a fantasy, it's a choice, a daily, radical, courageous choice to reclaim your energy, word by word, thought by thought, until your entire frequency becomes a living prayer of alignment. Because you don't need to wait for your life to improve before you stop complaining. You need to stop complaining so your life can improve. Let's be clear. Gratitude isn't blind positivity. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's not silence in the face of injustice. And it's not a refusal to express real pain. No, gratitude is clarity. It is the discipline of seeing with new eyes. It is the brave decision to find light in darkness, to say, "Even this has something to teach me." And it changes everything. Energetically, neurologically, spiritually, where complaining activates the stress response. Gratitude does the opposite. It softens the body, calms the nervous system, reduces inflammation, releases dopamine and oxytocin, the feel-good chemicals that foster connection, resilience, and joy. But more than that, gratitude rewires the brain. According to studies, in positive psychology, consistent gratitude practice strengthens the neural pathways responsible for optimism, emotional balance, and problem solving. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel better, it makes you more capable. And in the unseen realm, it does something even more powerful. It lifts your vibration instantly. It seals your energy field. It repels lower frequencies, opens your higher chakras, and turns your aura into a beacon that radiates peace and draws synchronicity. The shift from complaint to gratitude is the shift from victim to creator, from scarcity to abundance, from reaction to presence. But how? Do we actually do this? How do we break a habit so deeply ingrained, so automatic, it feels like second nature? The answer is simple and profound: practice, presence, pattern interruption. Here are 3 tools that will help you alchemize complaint into clarity. 1. The 3-breath reset. The next time you feel the urge to complain, to stop, close your eyes. Take 3 deep breaths. On the first breath, release tension from your body. On the second, bring your awareness fully into the present moment. On the third, silently say, "Thank you for this moment. Thank you for what it will teach me." That's it. This short ritual interrupts your emotional momentum. It brings your mind back to the now, and it plants a seed of gratitude before the energy of complaint can take root. Do this often enough and your baseline vibration will begin to rise. 2. The Gratitude Journal. Every night before bed, write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be big. In fact, the smaller and more specific, the better. The way sunlight hit your coffee, the kind text from a friend, the breath you took in silence. This rewires your brain to seek beauty. It shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, and it builds new neural highways that default to appreciation instead of complaint. Over time, this becomes your new lens, your default operating system. 3. Visualization of radiant thanks. Close your eyes. Imagine a moment, a person, a memory that fills you with deep gratitude. Feel that energy grow in your chest. Warm, light, expansive. Now visualize that energy flowing through your body, illuminating every cell. See it extend beyond you, wrapping your entire energy field in golden light. Let it surround you like a glowing shield, strong, soft, magnetic. This is not just imagination. This is energetic creation. And the more you dwell in this state, the more you attract what matches it. This isn't about perfection. You will still have moments of irritation, days when complaint feels justified, hours where old patterns rise. But that's not failure. That's the work. Transformation. Doesn't mean never falling. It means becoming conscious enough to rise faster each time. To catch yourself in the middle of the spiral and say, "No, I choose differently." And that choice is freedom. That choice is sovereignty. Because when you stop fighting life, life stops fighting you. When you stop broadcasting resistance, the universe stops echoing chaos. You align. And in that alignment, everything flows. Your energy becomes clean, clear, coherent. People feel it when you enter the room. Opportunities arise that feel like fate. Synchronicities multiply. Healing deepens. Love expands. Not because the world changed, but because you did. And it all begins with one question. What am I feeding with my focus? You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are the skies, and complaints are just passing weather. You are not a prisoner of your past. You are the architect of this moment. You are not powerless. You are the transmitter, the receiver, the vessel, and the flame. And your next word matters. So make it count. Your energy is sacred. Your words are spells. Your focus is the future. Choose wisely, and may your life become the beautiful echo of your highest vibration. Thank you for watching.